Well, we are ready for Tuesday. That is the tone in DRC as the Tshisekedi government has given its green light that indeed it is going to meet the M23 in Luanda for that direct talk or negotiations with the M23. And the M23 in that same note has given its statement that it will send a team of 5 members to Luanda for that direct negotiation with the government in Kinshasa. But even as this is continuing, the talk of a ceasefire between the Kinshasa government and the M23 and other militia that are supporting the M23 has just been mere talk or on paper because fighting is still continuing in eastern DRC. And in this video, I am going to tell you about another place where fighting is still continuing. In the previous video, I gave you an account where 20 Burundian troops lost their lives fighting the M23. And in this video, I'm going to tell you about another front that was South Kivu. This time, I'm going to tell you another front in North Kivu, 2 axes in North Kivu, where fighting is still very active and has been active since Saturday until today, Monday, the time that I was releasing this video. And the fighting in Eastern DRC is not only affecting the people in Eastern DRC or Rwanda or Burundi for that matter, it is affecting global prices on mining and minerals. I'm going to tell you about that specifically and how it is tied to the axis, the 2 axes that I've told you about, that active fighting is still continuing in North Kivu, as well as pressure is still mounting on Rwanda as the G7 has released a statement denouncing Rwanda and saying that Rwanda is supporting the M23 and that Rwanda should cease its support to the M23 and that the M23 should back down. I'm going to read for you the full statement that was released by the G7 in regards to the crisis in Eastern DRC. Well, this is Bonafide. If you haven't subscribed, kindly subscribe and hit that notification button so that when I release something new on the DRC crisis, you get notified as soon as possible. Well, first, it was the Tshisekedi government that released a statement saying that they will indeed participate in direct negotiations as it was requested by the M23 in Luanda that we need to have a direct negotiations with the Congolese government. There should be no intermediary. It should be M23 and the government in Kinshasa. The government in Kinshasa started by giving that green light when President Tshisekedi went and met the president of Angola and said that he is ready for those negotiations to take place in Luanda. And on this day, the M23 has also released a statement denoting that they will participate in those direct negotiations that will take place in Luanda. In a statement that was released by the spokesperson of the AFC M23, he said that the Congo River Alliance, or the AFC M23, informs the public that it is sending this Monday, March 17th, 2025, a delegation of 5 people to Luanda, the capital of Angola, to take part in direct dialogue at the request of the Angolan authorities. The statement went further to say that the AFC M23 reiterates its deep gratitude to His Excellency President João Lourenço, the President of the Republic of Angola, for his tireless efforts towards a peaceful resolution of the ongoing conflict in the DRC. That is the M23 giving its green light and indeed saying that 5 of its people will be going to Luanda to participate in these direct negotiations with the Kinshasa government. Remember, this was the request of the M23. Prior to this, it has been saying that there should be direct negotiations with the Kinshasa government, that the Kinshasa government is opting to use military power to fight the M23, to fight the insurgency in Eastern DRC. And the M23 AFC have been saying that military is not the solution to end the crisis in Eastern DRC, that there should be direct negotiations to put their grievances forward about why they are fighting in Eastern DRC. And according to the M23, they are saying that they are purely Congolese. They do not have any Rwandan influence, that these are people who have been born and bred in Eastern DRC and they are fighting for their rights to be recognized by the Kinshasa government. On the other side, the President Tshisekedi, has been adamant that the people fighting in Eastern DRC are indeed not just the M23 as it is purported. He says that these are Rwandan defense forces that are hiding under the pretext of the M23 and they are fighting the Congolese government, that is the FARDC in eastern DRC. So those are the stalemates. And of course, the M23 is saying that we are here because of prejudice, because of people who are not listening to us, people who are not involving us in governance in DRC. And the Congolese government is saying that we have been giving you the platforms to become part of the DRC, and you still have these uprisings time and time again, and it is not stopping, and you have influence from other countries. And well, even as the negotiations are ripe and both parties have that green light, they're saying that it is okay, we will have this meeting in Angola to directly negotiate about the solving of the crisis in eastern DRC. It is important to note that there have been calls to have a ceasefire in eastern DRC, and those calls have been falling on deaf ears because both of these parties are still actively fighting in eastern DRC. And that was one of the requests by the President Joao Lourenço of Angola, that you should have a real ceasefire. Everyone should stop talking by the time that these negotiations will be starting, because if you keep fighting while the negotiations are still ongoing, then you're going to hamper the entire efforts of these negotiations. And it is important to note that both of these parties are still actively fighting in North Kivu. That was the first province that was taken by the M23, and currently fighting is still continuing in Walikale territory in North Kivu province. And these clashes have been taking place since Saturday, March 15th, until this Sunday between the M23 and the FARDC that is supported by the Wazalendo on two axes in Walikale. The first axis is the Kitshanga, Mweso, Mpeti, Pinga. That is the M23 are positioned in the hills surrounding the village of Mpeti. And the second axis is the Sake, Mushaki, Nyabiondo, Kibua. The M23 took control of the city of Kibua on Saturday morning and are continuing the march towards Walikale center. And it is important to note that the fact that the M23 is going to Walikale, Walikale is very much known across the world to be the world producer of tin. In fact, the M23 entering Walikale has caused the Alphamin BC Mining, that is the ABM company, to suspend its operation. That is the company that is responsible for 4% of the global tin production. And that advance and the closing down of that company has made the tin prices to shoot up, because the prices of soldering metal on the London Metal Exchange, the LME, were up 3.3% at 34,530 US dollars a metric ton after touching the 34,815,000 US dollars a metric ton, the highest since July. Therefore, the conflict in eastern DRC is not only affecting the people there, it is also affecting the global prices of these precious metals that are being mined in eastern DRC. Notably, this is among the world's richest regions in terms of metal production, be it gold, be it tin, be it cobalt, and every other precious mineral that is used right now in mobile phones, in car batteries, and etc. And therefore, the disruption of the global trade of minerals is heavily affected by what is happening in eastern DRC. And that is why you're finding many countries are very much interested to find the lasting solution in what is happening in eastern DRC. It is also important to note that the Congolese government, the Kinshasa government, say that all minerals that are being produced in areas that have been taken over by the M23 will be regarded as not coming from Congo, that no country should consider these goods coming from Congo. And if these goods are being transported into Congo, into territories that are being managed by the DRC government, then they will be heavily taxed. That was the response by the Kinshasa government to put economic sanctions in eastern DRC in the past that have been taken over by the M23 to try and discourage countries from promoting what is happening in eastern DRC, because if any country buys these metals, then they will be directly supporting the M23. So that was Tshisekedi's move to try to discourage anyone or any economic gain by the M23 in East DRC. And the Rwandan government has been condemned by the G7 in a statement that read that the G7 members condemned the Rwanda-backed M23 offensive in eastern DRC and the resulting violence displacement, and grave human rights and international human law violations. This offensive constitutes a flagrant disregard of the territorial integrity of the DRC. They reiterated their call for the M23 and the Rwandan Defense Force to withdraw from all controlled areas. That is the statement of the G7, trying to condemn Rwanda for allegedly supporting the M23 in eastern DRC. And some of these countries have been affected by what is happening in eastern DRC. And this is also Kinshasa's move to fight the insurgency in eastern DRC. They're trying as much as possible to have that international condemnation of what is going on in eastern DRC, and they are attributing all this to Rwanda. Well, I will keep you informed of the negotiations that will start tomorrow regarding the conflict in eastern DRC, because this will be a first in terms of the scale of the conflict that is in eastern DRC. Direct negotiations between Tshisekedi and the M23, with all these standoffs, the M23 saying that right now we are controlling these two provinces and we are intending even to go to Kinshasa, as well as Tshisekedi's standings that these are indeed the Rwandan forces causing aggression in eastern DRC. Keep it bona fide.